Hello everyone, welcome and thank you for joining us here on Big Talk on Global Television. We're live in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, Afuye. We continue to follow for you here on Global Television all of the happenings with regards to the development on the ground in the Niger Republic. Since 26th of July, that country has never remained the same, and there's now conversation, if you like, a bunch of conversations as to whether it ever will remain the same, given the evolution it has seen in the last, 14, 15 days. There has been so much of, if you like, a couple of approaches to say, let's see how we can resolve this as quickly as possible. Dialogue has been tried. There's been several efforts to reach out to the junta there following the coup that happened on the 26th of July, which eventually led to the detention of the outside president, Mohamed Bazoum, being held in his residence already as it stands right now. On the one hand, the ECOWAS leadership had given a one-week ultimatum to the coup plotters to not only relinquish power but reinstate the outside president. On the other hand, power blocks across Africa, beyond Africa, have also tried to reach out to access the junta itself to have a dialogue to, first of all, have Mr. Bazoum released, but that just hasn't happened. And to further complicate the issues, we're now hearing that the junta is saying, look, if there's any attempt at invading, using military might to invade our country, we will exterminate the ousted president, Bazoum. That just shows how complicated, how further compounded the issue has become in the last 24 to 48 hours. But just when it was, about to hold its extraordinary meeting yesterday in Abuja, many Nigerians and indeed West Africans had expected that the sub-regional bloc would be able to reach such an agreement to find peace with the junta. But obviously, because that doesn't look very likely, there's now the option of military intervention. Categorically speaking, the leadership of ECOWAS has told member states to get their standby force activated. Of course, the implications of that are numerous, but one thing is clear: all options are on the table, and the leadership of ECOWAS is going ahead to ensure that it fulfills its mandate, which is to oust this junta and have Mr. Bazoum returned to power as quickly as possible. They call it a democratic government, which had been in place until that fateful day, 26th of July. I'm joined by an erudite current affairs political analyst today on the show, Olusola Afuye, to help us find context and perspectives for this conversation. Shola, it's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, for good to have you.
I want us to run right through it real quick. You have followed developments on the ground, right there in Niger Republic. Let's quickly look at the resolution reached yesterday by ECOWAS. What does it mean for the sub-region and indeed for the country, Niger Republic itself?
Well, we're talking about so ECOWAS body coming together to decide the fate of millions of Nigerians. And we're talking about trying to see how they can stop the military junta, the military intervention, the forces in Niger, just on the table of ECOWAS. When the face and the picture, the acceptability of the junta within the country is much applauded. Very celebrated. I can imagine a military junta after the coup d'etat gather the millions of people in their national stadium, gathered, and it was walking freely, and it was highly applauded. This is the kind of face of the military intervention we have in Niger. Having that, the ECOWAS leaders sat down and felt the only way to break through, to go in such country, is to issue threats. Are you not considering the lives of millions of the people in that country that's at stake? If really you are protecting the freedom, the democratic process, the free will of the people to choose who they want, I think their interest should be paramount, not the interest of just one man. If he's so popular, if he's so much celebrated, so much welcome, the true leader that is enjoying the mandate of more than 70% of his people, I don't think the kind of situation we have in Niger will come to play.
But the argument basically, Shola, is that this man had been duly elected, constitutionally brought into power, and as such, this is a denigration of that constitution.
Obviously, you can see the results, you can see the electorate, you can see where they stand. If you've been following the reports coming from the Niger and the interview across the land from the people, the sole electorate that felt that he has given him mandate, that this junta had come to truncate, I don't think the opinion poll would be on the side of the junta. Be what is on ground in Niger for the peace and security of the country, of the world and the continent, the continent, the sub-region. If ECOWAS feel we need to do something about this, the tone matters. The tone you deploy, the action you put on the table, it's important. Don't forget, the same military junta we are talking about, they are members of the country. They are citizens of Niger. It's not a military intervention from another country in Niger. They are all the same thing. They are brothers. The question is that problem is somewhere. How do we come in and resolve this? Immediately after this intervention, ECOWAS had an extraordinary emergency meeting where they were given ultimatum. Elapsed 2 weeks ago.
Elapsed on Sunday.
On Sunday last week. Now, yesterday, Thursday, there was another extraordinary meeting. They came up with this standby force tactics. You know, either we call it African standby force or we call it ECOWAS standby force. They are all tactics gotten from United Nations according to the Chapter 8 of the Act and that of ECOWAS of Article 21 that allows people to come together and make sure there is peacekeeping. The question is that this particular system, has it ever come successful in any of the region? The same tactics failed in Gambia, failed in Guinea-Bissau, couldn't resolve the problem in Uganda, couldn't resolve the problem in Sierra Leone. Why are we still toiling the same path? Who are we trying to appease? Who are we trying as African region to tell them how we do our things? Nothing can solve African problem down. Africans coming together to resolve their crisis together. This is just to tell you how deep Africans are into the crisis of leadership deficit. We don't say nobody can run our show like us. African, we understand the culture, the tradition that guided us. We should be able to resolve our issue amicably. This is one of the reasons why this is what you get when you are losing self-confidence, when you have lost the principle of self-reliance. You cannot depend on what you have. Arrange it by yourself. Use it for your people and for your people by your people. You know, democracy is the government of the people, for the people, and by the people and for the people. If this is what democracy is all about, for every citizen of every country to support democracy shows that he is feeling the impact of democracy. When there is no good governance, democracy is dead.
I want to ask you something real quick. The president just 2 days ago, President Bola Tinubu, who of course doubles as the chairman of the ECOWAS heads of government, had said that whatever position he is taking is not his. Neither is it Nigerian. It is for ECOWAS. He's acting in his capacity as the chairman of ECOWAS. That said, do you think the chairman of ECOWAS is under pressure from international influences?
I am not putting this on his table. But I just felt that the Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu ought to know better. I have mentioned some countries.
Right.
This standby force has failed.
Consistently?
Consistently, it has not resolved any matter. Over time, I have mentioned Guinea-Bissau, I've mentioned Sierra Leone, it failed in Uganda. Presently, Mali is yet to come to terms. Burkina Faso is under threat. Gambia is there. We have to look at the history. When Nigeria was under military control, is this that easy? Or was it that easy for the ECOWAS or United Nations or ECOWAS or African Union to resolve the crisis in Nigeria? No. It is within the confines and the same decision taken by the same military junta that gave birth to this fourth republic we are having today. General Abdusalam Abubakar decided there must be transition. When it was in the days of Obasanjo organized an electoral process. He set it in motion. We had Shagari. Later they came back. Up to the time we had Buhari, we had Babangida, we had Abacha.
All of this in the 80s.
All in the 80s. At the end of the day, the politicians were doing their things. They became friends. Where was African Union? Where was ECOWAS? Until the time Abubakar Abdusalam organized, don't forget, under Abacha junta, Abacha set up a motion in place. That was when we have the likes of UNDP, the other political party as that time, they call them UNCP or whichever way. They were on ground to do what? To usher in a democratic elected government. Along the line, the man died. Abubakar Abdusalam came in, stepped in. He continued from where he stopped. ECOWAS, AU, none of them came on board. There wasn't like military standby force. There was nothing. Not even when this particular process has been highly criticized. That because it has failed in all these countries I've mentioned, the situation we have in the world today, especially in Africa, the dimension of crisis, it is too robust for this kind of policy of the United Nations, ECOWAS, and AU to stand them.
Are you by any means suggesting that we should allow the Nigerians, including the junta, to do their thing internally?
They have to pick, if they are going to come into it. Let us take Liberia, for example. A lot of systems were deployed. They sat on the table, they discussed the way forward, they put up calendar in place, and they achieved it. But this idea of coming to twist the process that started, not even when it is enjoying the support of the people in the country, and you are now want to go there by force or by crook or means, who is involved that is finding the ember of this discord? That feel that is until Niger is destroyed through bullets, that is when they can satisfy their interest. No. Don't forget, casualties are not only those who are dead. An injury to one will always be an injury to all. Let the likes of France, America, whichever way, turn Niger to battlefield. Nigeria will continue to have sleepless nights.
Just yesterday, the junta has now officially put a government in place. What does that say? Does it make it harder to come to truce, or is just a way of saying, look, we have a transition plan in place?
The question is, this is the first time we'll be having a military intervention in a country, and every arms of government or the instruments of governance are still functioning. In Niger today, children are going to school.
Even though the airspace has been shut?
It is a form of protecting the government for a while. It is a form of protecting government. Don't forget, for a military intervention to come into place in any country, they will have put in a lot of measures into place to protect every external aggression with an internal aggression as well. So they can put in place a very acceptable government for their people, and it will not in any way cause them any grave implication to a larger extent. Not that it will not come with any grave implication. Can we manage the implication? They are going to school. They are going to farm. Within the city of Niamey, people are doing their business. Everything is going on fine. That's to tell you that the people of Niger, they are okay with the situation. Maybe one thing or the other has changed. And don't forget about the Africa sub-region have been actually being taken over by jihadists, banditry, militias, and what have you. They are not out today. They are somewhere hiding. But some are operating. There is no part of the ECOWAS sub-region today that has not been taken over by all this I've mentioned. This to tell you that sub-region is delicate. It needs to be handled with care, not sitting down somewhere and issuing threats. I am telling you today, nobody understands the terrain more than the people within that region, within that country. Maybe they are waiting for when there will be a sellout within the rank and files of the junta, which they might be waiting, and they might wait for so long. Now, the man has come to say, the junta said, no, it's your government. Let us give you leadership. Immediately after he took over, he set up some instruments in motion. The 8th region within the Niger he gave them head to control the regions. That is to tell you that nothing is happening or nothing has happened to the instrument of governance in Niger. What they are protecting is now, they are trying to guide the country against the external aggression.
Just before we take a break, let's talk about the implication of the continuous detention of President Bazoum, the man who has been ousted from office. Now, in his own residence, just yesterday, was saying that he has been fed in very recent times dry rice. I don't know what that means, but it's a pointer to the state of mind and his welfare as it stands right now. What does that mean for the junta?
I will not play unnecessary. I will not be an apologist, and I will not be apologetic to what I want to say. Whatever he's being fed with, if he likes, let him eat it or not. He was the #1 citizen of the country. How has him be fair? How has him be with the people he governed over the last 4 years or 5 years?
He came into power in 2021. I mean, he hasn't been there relatively long.
Before he got there, he has been part of the government. He saw the problem. He saw them coming. The question is he still alive? Is one of the negotiating instruments between the juntas and whoever is coming to intervene. His life is important to the juntas. A lot of things about the government, they need to hear from him. In order not to paint the exercise, the intervention as against him, not against his style of leadership, or not against the way he came in, they need to keep him alive. Not to send the wrong signal. Not to look as if it is all about him. It is not all about him. It is not all about him. It's all about the welfare of the country. And it's going to be an instrument. It's going to be an instrument to achieve that particular goal.
In terms of negotiation?
Yes. Of course, he needs to tell them a lot of things they don't know. He's there. They keep him there because they are asking him some questions. And he's telling them, do you know where maybe one way or the other, he has the wealth of the country is stacked somewhere. If we had opportunity to have kept Abacha this long, we won't be talking about repatriating our money now that is being relooted. Because Abacha will have given us opportunity to know where those cash are stashed. It is a simple case. He's under house arrest. He's not in one dungeon, in his own house. I think he understands his own house more than anybody.
I want to ask you this quickly. We've seen even traditional rulers were saying, religious leaders at the highest level were saying, the likes of His Eminence, the Sultan of Sokoto, Of course, just like you mentioned a while ago, we've also seen the likes of former military head of state, General Salami Abubakar retired. We've seen the post-emir of Kano, former CBN governor as well, Lamido Sanusi, also make their own practical efforts to intervene. Let's do an assessment of that effort. What is it worth? How much of difference does it make for the better?
I will tell you, there is no military intervention in Africa that we have read, we have heard about in the history that are not open to discussion.
So these steps by these personalities
even in the face of civil war, on Aburi we stand, it was all about negotiation. Don't forget that Odumegwu Ojukwu of blessed memory and Gowon, the leader of Nigerian force, traveled all the way from Nigeria to Ghana to go and discuss on the table.
The Aburi Accord.
On the Aburi Accord. There is no, if you look at the history properly, the military intervention in our governance, whichever way we want to look at it, the juntas are always ready for discussion. But you always get on the wrong side with them when you want to tell them you want to use force. They don't have anything to lose. Markets, they have nothing to lose. Either we like it or not, the name of the junta is in the history. And don't forget, military don't play with history. That is what they want. Some people are just living for that. That let me have my name in the book. Whatever happens, they don't care. But the question is, if truly democracy is all about empathy, if democracy is all about protecting the life of the citizen, if democracy is all about protecting life and property, as the case may be today, ECOWAS should tread with caution because we have millions of people that are entitled to life in Niger.
In 1 minute, just as we wrap up now, let's talk to me about what could happen, what might happen if the junta today were to announce a transition plan that is practicable with timelines that are very, very clear. Would that be enough to ward off whatever military option that the ECOWAS is considering?
That is why we have to ask the ECOWAS, what is their interest? Is their interest about the president that was outed, or their interest is about seeing peace and security in Niger? If the junta should come out, roll out plans on how to transit power to a democratically elected president, I think in a very good atmosphere, ECOWAS should be happy about that. They should be very happy about that. No, in any situation we have process, any of our electoral process had issue, or our democratic system is having one problem or the other, and people are not ready to come out and stand on the side of the truth, this is what you achieve. We are talking about how we can make the power of electorate go beyond the polling unit. Let the people have say in the way they are governed. Not on after the election, after traversing the length and breadth of your country, you campaign, and at the end of the day, you now feel that once you are in the villa or the house or anywhere, the state house of any country, you now feel you are all in all. It is because the African leaders don't allow their policies to pass through the opinion poll, to pass through the people's scrutiny. That is why we always have this problem. Because majorly, their policies and programs are not supported by the people.
All right. I'd like to thank you, Shola Afuye, a public affairs analyst, for all of these very valuable insights you've come to share with us today with regards to the coup in Niger Republic and all of the dialogue, efforts at dialogue, and of course the approach being adopted or already adopted by the ECOWAS and other interested stakeholders across the continent and beyond. But we do believe that ultimately peace will be found in Niger Republic because take it or leave it, whatever happens in Niger rubs off or reverberates across not just the sub-region but the entire continent. And again, I want to say thank you, Shola, for
thank you very much.
Part of your time with us today. This is what we're living it, everyone. Thank you for watching. A Big Talk on Global Television returns tomorrow.